How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 6 of What If Deku Had White Flames. And before I start this what if off, please put your what if suggestions down in the comments section below. And that is because tomorrow and Sunday will be the first 2 parts of a new what if series. The what if poll should go up live at around 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So if you want to vote on which what if it should become, or which what if suggestion should become one of my what if series, please go check that what if poll out at around 9 p.m. tonight Eastern time. And now, let's begin. The crowd would look on in shock. They had no clue what had just happened in front of their eyes. However, the heroes knew that this was a villain attack, and in order for the crowd and the rest of the students not to get scared, they would just play it off like that was supposed to happen, as Midnight would then be told over her just earpiece to roll with it and say that Izuku had won the match, just to completely not mind what had just happened, as they can't have anyone panicking that villains are somewhere in the building. So Midnight would say, and Izuku Todoroki is the winner of the UA Sports Festival. I almost said Midoriya. As the crowd would cheer, now just not confused at all, they just saw Izuku win the tournament, so they would cheer in excitement. So finally, after around 10 minutes, the podium would be set up, Izuku at the top, Bakugo in second place, and then Tokuyami in third place, as the crowd would cheer after seeing what that was, as Izuku would then go back to just the waiting room, and no one knew about what had just happened with Todoroki and Rei Todoroki. They only knew what was going on, or only Class 1A knew, because Todoroki was their classmate up until then, and now he had just disappeared with supposedly a villain after saying he was going to kill Izuku, so they were for sure pretty confused. So when Izuku would get back there, they would start asking him a bunch of questions, as he would just tell them he knows as much as they do about this whole situation. All he knows is that the black-haired woman is his mother, even though she had supposedly died over 5 years ago, as the class would just stop talking about it, as they would then get changed, go back onto the bus, and travel back to UA, as they would then receive word that the UA dorms had just finished being built, and that they are going to have a week off from this to get set up into the dorms. I believe I haven't done the dorms yet in this what if, so I'm just doing that now, just so you all know, as Nezu would then go back into the Class 1A classroom, as Izuku was instructed to stay behind, while the rest of his classmates left to go back to their house. As Izuku would be sitting there, Nezu would then come in and would sit down next to the desk next to Izuku. So, Izuku, do you have any idea who that person was? As Izuku would shake his head no. He had no clue who that person was. Or he did have a clue, but it was his mother, right? But she had been dead for 5 years, and she looked completely different. I mean, her hair had completely changed color. As Izuku would give Nezu all the details he knew, and that Izuku hadn't seen his mother in over 5 years, thinking that she was dead, deceased. As Nezu would answer by nodding his head in response, telling Izuku he may go, and that he's gotten enough information that he needed. I mean, he saw how Todoroki tried to kill Izuku, so Izuku was for sure not on the bad villain side. So Izuku would start the long walk back to his house, as he would continue on walking, as he would then look up to see smoke in the distance, as he would start to run over to where his house was, before realizing what had happened. There his house was, burning to the ground as ashes were fluttering into the air, as Izuku would slam the door open, looking around frantically. What was going on? As Izuku would then look towards the family room, as he laid eyes to the 3 burning corpses of 2 of his siblings, the only 2 he had left, and his father, right there. All the family he had left that were still on the hero's side were burning there as their bodies were turning into ash, as Izuku would reach down into it, not caring about the flames touching his skin. They didn't affect him at all because of the fire resistance that he had gotten because of his quirk, so it really didn't affect him. But how could this affect Endeavor's body? Only if his quirk was taken from him. That's the only thing that could possibly happen. As Izuku would reach down, grabbing Endeavor's skull, as it would then shatter into millions of tiny pieces. As Izuku would then fall to his knees, slamming his hands down into the ground, as he would then yell, "No! Why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve something like this?" As Izuku would then get up and walk out of the building as if on instinct, as all of a sudden the building would then collapse behind Izuku, as firefighters would then arrive on the scene to see Izuku sitting staring up at the building, or the just ruins of Izuku's house. As Izuku would walk over to it, just laying his hands on the place he saw his family last. As firefighters would then put Izuku into an ambulance, sitting him down and taking him to a hospital to get a mental check just to make sure he was fine. They had just realized he had saw his parents and possibly other siblings die in a fire, and that could be very taxing on someone's emotional behavior and mental state. So they would take him in and get an evaluation, but Izuku was completely fine, as he would just ask to go home, as they would say, sure, completely confused on what he meant. His home had surely just been destroyed. However, Izuku would walk over to the UA campus and would then go to Nezu's office. He saw that Nezu's hours were from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Very, very late, or very early to very late. So Izuku would walk into Nezu's office, as he would then sit down asking if he could just move in right away. He would also ask if Nezu could buy him some, like, a mattress and a bed frame, if he could, and maybe a couple blankets and a pillow. Nezu would ask why this is, as Izuku would just say that his entire family, or what was left of it, had just been destroyed in a house fire, and he thinks he knows why. He thinks that Rei Todoroki and his brother Shoto Todoroki had, after escaping from the sports festival, went to his house, killed Endeavor, and she possibly did something with his quirk, possibly, if that can even be possible, and then left. As Izuku would explain this all, as Nezu would just shake his head, telling Izuku sure, as he would then take out $1,000 and would then give Izuku an extra $4,000 to just go buy basic needs for his dorm room. Since Izuku had just seen his family die, Nezu knew how stressful that could be, and as soon as Izuku left, Nezu would call All Might and the rest of the hero staff into his office, as he would then sit them down and would start to explain what Izuku had just told him. Well, it appears we have a villain that can kill Endeavor. As All Might would stand up, telling Nezu how he knows such information, as he would then explain how Izuku had just walked home and had seen Endeavor's body along with his two siblings there. He had just seen them, their burning corpses, and Endeavor, the number 2 hero, was now dead. As All Might would stumble back into his chair in shock, Endeavor, the number 2 hero, someone who basically was his rival, had now just been dead? This was insane, a crazy thought, All Might said, as Nezu would nod his head, saying how it was indeed insane, as he would then explain how it most likely was the villain that appeared at the sports festival before grabbing Todoroki and throwing him through a portal. It could possibly be that person, as the heroes would nod, saying it is possible, since Izuku did refer to her as his mother. So maybe Shoto wasn't a hero after all. Maybe he was an undercover villain gathering information. Maybe that's why the USJ was attacked, too. He possibly could have been a rat through this all, or just an imposter. As the heroes would nod, telling them that makes a lot of sense actually. He always seemed really distant and really didn't care about any of the hero exercises. Well, I think we should possibly get all of the students into dorms as fast as we can. We should also upgrade our security to the fullest we possibly can. I think we need to spend a lot of the budget on it, as what we have now might be leading up to some type of war. They've already stolen Todoroki from us or twisted his mind, so we possibly could still save him. He's still a developing child. This is all a lot to take in. Do you think Izuku could also be a rat and this is just some ploy so that he can get closer to us and form emotional bonds since his parents had been killed? Nezu would shake his head, saying, no, this couldn't be the case. Nezu knows Izuku. He also knew Endeavor, and he has seen Izuku's training and his want to be a hero. Izuku has a lot of passion for this and wouldn't just turn it away to go to some low-life villain. It's just something Izuku wouldn't do. As the heroes would say, alright, that somewhat makes sense, I guess. So, now that we got our plans set, should we still let them do the internships? Nezu would nod his head, saying it'd be great for them to get this off their mind. So, in a week's time, they should get their internship letters so that they can sign up as soon as possible. As a week would pass, as all of the Class 1A students would be sitting there, some of them even looking at Todoroki's empty seat, as Aizawa would then hand them all a massive stack of papers, some a tiny stack of papers, and some no papers at all. This was the internships, and they were going to sign with they were going to sign with one of the internships, and then they're just going to end up doing hero work and hero training with that hero agency. So Izuku would look through all of the options, signing with All Might's agency, since All Might pretty much knew Endeavor the most out of anyone on there, as Izuku would also want to be with All Might since All Might was the #1 hero, and Izuku looked up to All Might. So Izuku would end up traveling to All Might's agency, as All Might's agency only picked Izuku because he was first. They pick only the people who get first throughout the entire tournament. That's just something that they do, as they don't want a ton of people going and knowing the location of the agency. So when Izuku would arrive there, All Might would then lead Izuku around, showing him around before starting what their training would be, as they would train and do different types of hero work, like helping old ladies, helping get groceries, save a couple of cats, the basics, as Izuku wouldn't really like it because he thought he was a lot stronger than this, but you have to learn the basics before you can get higher up. Any act of kindness is still being a hero for some people. You're not going to get a hero by just doing real fighting villains. You're going to also have to do small things to help the local community. So that's what they would mostly do throughout the week. And when it came to the final day, All Might would let Izuku choose where they would go, as Izuku would choose the most crime-ridden city throughout the district that they were in. Well, I'm saying district, I don't know if Japan has those. It's just a section of the country. That's what I'm going to be saying for this what if. I'm not going to say it again, probably. They would just go to a certain section where the agency was and UA was located, as Izuku would choose the city with the most crime, as All Might would nod his head, telling Izuku, okay, we should probably get going then, it's a little ways away, as they would then jump off into the distance, running that way on top of rooftops, hoping to get there as fast as they can. Izuku would be a little out of breath since how fast All Might was, but Izuku really couldn't care less, as he would then arrive there, as All Might would look on in shock. The city was in ruins. There was Nomus everywhere as heroes were fighting to keep them back. It was crazy, as All Might would tell Izuku to stay there, as All Might would then jump down. All Might would immediately ask for backup before going in and fighting the Nomus. They were nothing compared to the USJ Nomus, All Might would say to himself as he would continue easily punching the Nomus in one punch, easily destroying them. They didn't have any regeneration quirks or resistance quirks like the USJ Nomu, so they were very easy to fight. Since they were very mass-produced, they weren't the best of quality. So All Might would then keep on fighting them, destroying the population, as Izuku would then feel a pain in his chest, as he would look over to see he was being kicked by Stain into an alleyway, as Stain would then try to lick some blood off Izuku. However, Izuku would send his flames there, which would evaporate the blood, as Izuku would laugh, saying how he knew who Stain was, and he studied his paths. That's why he chose this location. He's gotten approval from All Might to use his quirk, and he's finally going to be able to 1v1 Stain. This is something he's been looking forward to doing for a very long time. And that's where I'm going to leave this off, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy Part 6 of What If Deku Had White Flames. I thank you all for watching, and remember, a new What If is coming out tomorrow. Part 1 tomorrow, Part 2 on Sunday. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.